Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Growth Show. I'm joined with Tom Pickering and David Barkley, our legendary industry experts, who are here to help us chew over a few of the most important things going on in the world today from a leadership and business standpoint. So we thought we are a quarter of the way through 2021 and so much has been going on. So we just thought we'd ask the question, what is important now? So Tom, what is important now to you?
Yeah, good question, Nick. Once more. So I would say that what's important now to me is actually what I'd describe as being regrowth of businesses. So there's a lot of people who are sort of doing a variant of what they've been doing for the last 20 odd years. When in fact, I'm firmly of the belief there's a sort of a replanting of the garden, and businesses are actually being regrown if they're doing the right things. And so specifically, I think, Nick, it's about recognizing the new now. And so what does that look like? It's about acknowledging some of the things that we've all become acutely aware of. And the challenge is, are we doing anything about it? And so, the sort of things that people have noticed, like the importance of community, the importance of relationships, the importance of making money without actually but also collaborating rather than the usual competitive price route to nowhere. So, and also creating work as well. I'm passionate about creating local businesses that. So this is a sort of regrowth thing, Nick. I think so. To answer your question, out of all of that, I think that we're faced with what do we do now. I think the challenge is to stop a lot of the things we were doing, which is very difficult. It's difficult for me as well. But when you are taking these actions, what's exciting is it's you're growing a very solid business which is well rooted, it's going to survive for the future, and it's really, really satisfying actually, because I've got to know a lot of people. There's some of these businesses that I've been talking about. Developed some really strong relationships, very, very profitable. Intimacy is a word that I use quite a bit. I've described that as being accurate, and I think also sustainable as well. So, again, growth, there's a big conflict with growth, and which has been the mantra for an awful long time. And in fact, I think the sustainability aspect is also important. So, in a nutshell, I think the challenge for us, Nick, is in that sort of, I try to give you my perception of what I think the new paradigms are to regrow a business from, but those are the sorts of things which I think are important now as leaders to get right.
Yeah, I love the term regrowth, and let's come back and revisit some sort of examples you might have seen around regrowth in a minute. That'd be good. David, what about you? What's most important right now?
It's interesting. I'm just sort of looking at a few trends with some of the companies that I worked with recently, and we've done a few sort of team seminar, team workshops, team seminar type things. And I think probably the most important thing is to reset teams at this time. And the number one thing I'd have on the top of the agenda would be to organise something fun for when restrictions are lifted. I think it's taken a long, this feels like an interminable age to come out of lockdown and come out of some of these restrictions, and people are beginning to feel it a little bit. And I think one of the biggest dangers could be that team, we just sort of come out as the restrictions ease up and we sort of come out of lockdown, people just carry on with business. And I think there'd be two dangers there. One is you don't reset where the team is then. We've had to work from home for a long time. We've had to work remotely or in different conditions. So it'd be good to reset what the new expectations are when these restrictions are lifted. And also just to reset relationships as well. I know lots of companies that I work with, lots of team members actually haven't physically met each other because they've been hired during the year or changed role during the year, and just have that time to really, reconnect and reset would be good. So organise something fun for people to do and to really bond.
Yeah, I think that's spot. So we've got regrowth and reset. I'm feeling pressure to come up with repeat or something. I don't know. After
I've got loads more written down here. Do you want to refocus, reconnect, realign? Loads of them.
Oh, no. Well, you could have left me one at least. That's very greedy of you.
I'll take one on the table.
Yeah, please do. So Tom, let's revisit regrowth. So let's work through an example of what you might have seen there, and you've said personally, you've had some sort of challenges around this as well. What's been your experience so far of that sort of regrowth mindset?
It's when you meet a customer, Nick, with your proposition. Okay, you've got your service, you've got your product, and you put the proposition to them, and you've got to go to them and say, look, this is, if you talk about sustainability, for example, okay, everybody knows sustainability is an issue, but actually, what's it worth, Nick? And to be sustainable, you've got to charge more money. And so I put this out as part of my proposition when I'm selling the service to clients, and it works. And if I don't say that, people don't have the opportunity, Nick. And actually, when you start get these elements right around relationship, around sustainability, around intimacy, community, then the issue of price disappears off a cliff. It's absolutely secondary, and of course you've got to do a good job. So I think it's as simple as that, Nick. It's about being front of house with, and very clear about what the new stall looks like.
So almost like reframing. There we are. I've got a re in there, which David.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
okay,
good.
so yeah, so I mean, not just going back to what was the perceived normal from 12 months ago, which is a long time, right?
Yeah.
You would have expected everyone's businesses have evolved in some way in that time anyway, right? So just to be coming out with the same products, same services, would be interesting. Wouldn't be interesting. It would be surprising, right? You'd be like, oh, so nothing changed in your last 12 months. So I think that's good there. And for David, for your, I really like the idea of just resetting the teams and getting those relationships sort of rebuilding. God, I'm trying to not say re now, which is hard. And so you've been working with your clients on actually just bringing the fun back in, just rebuilding connection. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And just for some people, it's just about building that connection. We've built a whole load of connection on Zoom or Google Meets or FaceTime or Skype or whatever it's been. And it's just completely different when you can go out and speak to people. I've had a few clients who are raising money at the moment. It's hard to do that on Zoom. You don't get that very much, that personal connection. So I think just having time with teams, time to just acknowledge that this period has probably been very, very mentally draining for people. We haven't, I don't know many people who've been able to go away for a holiday unless you're some sort of Instagram influencer. It's been hard just to get even a holiday, even some sort of break. And so I think just to acknowledge that, do something that's going to give people a mental stimulus, do things that are outside of the normal patterns of what they'd be doing. As we re-engage teams again, I think is key, because there is a danger at the moment that people are getting a little bit stale, that it is dragging coming out of lockdown. It is making huge progress, but there's still a long way to go. June feels a long way, I think, for most people. So just having things to look forward to as well is really key. That helps keep up morale for the next couple of months, certainly.
Yeah, and I think every business has a mission, what they're trying to achieve, which is great. But at the heart of that mission for me has always been people. And I've always wanted to do stuff for the people I work with and support. And not seeing them for ages, everyone forgets that. So I think just reconnecting with the idea of like, we fight and work hard to protect a culture in our business because of the people in it, for me, is everything, right? And it gets lost during this period of time where it is a Zoom or it is a phone call. Your mission from a servicing clients is great, and that's brilliant, and that doesn't sort of change. But the real driving force of why you wake up and kill yourself to work for each other, dwindles because you just haven't got that same feeling. Like when like the best sports teams I've played in, if one of your players missed a tackle or let someone go by, and first and foremost, you went after that person for them, because you're one unit and you work for each other, not the brand name of the team, right? And that was always what's so important. So I think that's just getting together piece. And I think for leaders, like, I've got an amazing team in Luxembourg that I've been able to see for 12 months. Like it's insane. I just can't wait to go and actually just say, hey, you're 2 foot taller than I thought because you sat down for the last sort of 2 years, or you're 2 foot wider because of the cookies we've all been consuming. So like there's I can't wait for that. I really, really can't wait for that. And also just to be in front of a random new client, or it feels like almost like you've been dating these people on Zoom forever. Now we're actually going to meet up. It's an exciting time there. Tom, what else is sort of on your agenda at the moment? What else do you think people might be, is important and people need to keep a focus on right now?
Yeah. Well, what I've described, Nick, is basically some of the startup businesses that I've adopted. Of course, you don't have a legacy, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's exciting, and I've been proving that, and it works. I think what David's talking about is the how. So what I'm particularly excited about is very similar to what David is excited about, which is actually you can do exactly the same thing in a corporate environment, okay? But you need a new set of skills to do that, and it does require resetting of relationships. It requires people to maintain relationships, even if you're talking about having difficult conversations rather than avoiding the conversation at all. It requires acknowledging people and finding out people, what makes them tick, and developing our self-awareness, those sorts of skills, because those are the underlying skills that enable, organizations to make these shifts. And that's what I think where we as a team come together as well, in terms of having the ability to operate at startup as well as corporate level. And we both got I come from a big corporate background, so that's where my real passion is, to change organizations. So specifically I'm looking to run leadership cohorts in Ashridge Business School, which is where I normally run them. Nice location, and really get some outstanding results. It's just so exciting. So, and then they can do it themselves. So what I've just described, in whatever context, whatever objectives they've got to do, they can then go off and do that themselves. And that to me really is truly exciting. I think it's like what David was saying. There's actually there is the corollary to that is actually just doing more or less of the same, Nick, and no one wants that. That's actually very stressful, because nobody can deny the reality of what we've all faced around relationships, community, bumping into people, saying hello to people that we don't normally speak to, all that sort of stuff. And to come out of this and not action that will actually cause people a lot of stress. And so I'm really keen that, yes, survival, but now let's replant the garden in the way I've tried to describe originally. But that requires getting that team together and then set them off to enable them to do it themselves.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think also for people at home, it's good. What is interesting is, yes, you're dealing with multinational corporates, but you're applying the same principles to a three person startup, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And it's the same, different scale of problems, but it's the same fundamentals around it, which I think is good.
Yeah.
What's that, Tom?
Same engine, yeah.
Same engine, yeah. I think that's good. And I think David, you can agree with that. I personally know a load of the clients you interact with and the scale of them, but I also know the stuff you do in the startup community. And is there a difference? Is there a difference for you in the way you approach work between the big and the smalls?
The smalls tend to be more agile. I think they're more open to change and they're more flexible. Partly because that's the nature of an entrepreneurial startup and a fast-growing thing, that you can be more agile and you can be more adaptable. I had a call this morning with a big corporate, and there was one throwaway line that was, there's a lot of talk about how different working patterns are going to be, but we're probably not going to change, are we? Really? Everyone will be back in the office. And it was just sort of interesting that it sounded like a one-way dialogue. That it wasn't, we're going to listen to people, or we're going to listen to people to a certain extent, and then everyone will be back in the office. And it was just quite interesting. Whereas I think that the startups being more agile and perhaps looking at different ways to engage and retain talent, you have to think it's not just about a paycheck anymore. And I think lots and lots of people are going to be reevaluating where they work and how they work off the back of this. And there might be lots and lots of people who, I've got lots of friends and some clients who pre-COVID didn't see their children from Sunday night to Saturday morning, and now have 3 meals a day with them. And they're sort of thinking, well, hang on a minute, I'm missing out on a lot of family time here. You know, what does that look like in terms of my work? Could I move somewhere different? Could I have 2 days a week with them, 3 days a week with them? And, you know, we're working at home and then a couple of days a week in the office. How are we going to do this? What's the purpose in the office? And I think the biggest danger or sadness would be for companies to go, well, COVID's over, let's go back to what we were doing anyway. And not really looking at some of the efficiencies and changes and mental well-being of staff, and really just re-evaluating, there's another re in there, re-evaluating why we're doing what we're doing and not just doing it because that's what we always do.
Yeah, I think if you are that business who is going to be 5 days a week back in the office, you need to be really, really vocal and passionate about why, and have a very clear path to the culture you want to breed. And frankly, if you don't want to be part of that, off you go. And I mean, I think for graduate-based businesses, I think that would actually be a wonderful culture. You know, that's where the memories are made, your fun stories, you meet friends out of school or university. I think that's, you know, that's great. And the idea of being a graduate starting remotely, I think they're missing out on some sort of huge interpersonal skills, frankly, that are, you know, made up from the drama that comes with an office environment, frankly. But I mean, if you are going to be, you know, I think, you know, about with the refocus, reframing, regrowth is resetting that agenda for why we're in the office, right? You know, why it's important to us, the benefits we really get from it. And maybe there are stages of development within that business where it pulls apart. But I think people need to know now, because they've questioned it, they've been living it and experiencing it and been trusted for such a period of time, is they want to know, why can you evidence I'm less productive? You know, can you evidence why the business is failing, or is not being as successful because we're not together? And I think some businesses can evidence that really well, like sales businesses in particular, you know, who buzz off the energy and vibes and information sharing, easy justification. Maybe if you're a leading set of accountants, maybe not, right? You know, but I think at the heart of it, those leaders need to be able to tell people clearly, honestly, why us being together is so important, right? You know, or if you're a leader and it's not that important, but it's important to you, again, be honest, you know, that you need that time. So I think that's really interesting. I think that's really interesting around there. Tom, so I can see you nodding around the screen there. Anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think if not careful, we're denying some of the learning. So I think employees have become much more autonomous, Nick. So they've been operating under their own steam, and I think it's more fundamental than when people are working. I think there's a shift from hierarchy-led organisations to decentralised organisations. So the assumption I'm very much making, although I haven't articulated it, interesting enough, much, is that is it's about, you know, you giving me something to do, Nick, and say, right, just do it, okay? And you and I might need to meet in the office, or might need to have a Zoom call, might need to do this, that, the other. But, you know, don't dictate to me, I need to come to the office 5 days a week. Because if I've been working under my own steam, you know, with my own agenda, looking after my own well-being, you start in a very productive way, then you have to be very careful, I think. And so I think there's a great danger you'd undermine people's trust fundamentally, saying, you know, after 12 months, because 12 months is a long time, Nick. 66 days is the magic number in terms of permanent change in habits, right? So a year is a lot more than that. My brain switched off then, but it's about five times that roughly, which is
I can concur. It is more.
Yeah.
That is the knowledge my math said. But yeah, that's a lot of habit, right? Created,
yeah.
And that's a lot of new routine. And
that's permanent. That's permanent in human terms.
Yeah, I mean, people's just daily wake up times. I mean, we all know there are people who start work at 8:30, and 8:15 is now their new wake up time, right? And whether that involves getting changed or not, hey ho, that's their new routine. So moving that to a 6 a.m. wake up to be on a train back into wherever you are in the world is definitely going to be a slight sort of shift. I also think it will be such a novelty coming back to the office that the first few weeks back in an office environment will be the most unproductive of the last 12 months.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to want to talk to people. Like, you've got, well, not much has happened in my life during that sort of period of time, but what has, I probably want to tell someone, and I probably want to share a story with people. And I think it will be incredibly frustrating for managers just trying to keep people apart, frankly, when they first sort of come back. David, you're about to say something.
Yeah, and I think that's largely because if we behave reactively to it, and we expect everybody to come into the office and start working, you managers will get frustrated, because the coffee machine is going to be there's going to be a non-stop queue around it of people talking. But let's just say you're proactive and you organise a couple of fun things. Maybe you just say, right, we're going to block out these 2 days, 3 days, half a day, whatever it is, and we're going to do something fun. We're going to break into teams. We're going to catch up. We're going to, do a challenge around the city, or we're going to, do something where we share some of our stories from this time, or we, make a company video, or we do something like that. It's not that you can then control it, but you can frame that. So you can have that time and go, this is the time we're going to chat. We're going to catch up. We're going to do all that. And we're going to realign where we're going as a business, what we're trying to do, how we're going to work, how you want to work, how we want to work together. And then on the Monday morning, you crack on with it. And then it's not just this thing that sort of drifts out. And then managers one day, lose it and throw a coffee cup against the window and go, right, everybody now back to work, because that will stifle the culture as well. So I think it's being proactive as opposed to reactive. And how do you actually manage that? How do you frame that experience of people as they come back in?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And obviously, both yourself, Tom, and Ollie, I mean, this is a large part of all the work everyone's doing right now, right? Getting businesses back into shape for constant change, right? For this return, but the constant change, regrowth, everything we've mentioned on here today. Thanks again, Tom and David, for that. I mean, really good, short, sharp, powerful little session there with loads to think about. I am definitely stealing the regrowth word there, and the reset. I think that is all I need to focus on for the next week, making sure that businesses I'm aligned with are getting sorted on that. And for everyone at home, again, over 8,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Amazing. I don't know how many on Spotify, but loads on there as well. If you want to reach out about talking about your company, growth strategies, turning it around, coaching, team coaching, individual coaching, reach out. I'll put a link on the YouTube channel somewhere. Get in contact and understand some of the work that's going on to help businesses move from good to great at the moment. So there's some very cool people doing some very cool things. It'd be good to share that with you. Otherwise, thanks so much for all the support, and we will see you on the next one. All the best. Bye-bye.